Welcome to Bleav in Chargers, part of the Bleav Network. Matt Money Smith here with the great Lorenzo Neal. We say it every week, 17 years. Man, knows a little something about controlled violence and what it takes to win a football game. And it was a heck of an effort on Sunday night. Unfortunately, the Chargers come up a little bit short, but a big thank you to all of you that watch, that consume. I continue, Lo, to run into people on the road. The Powder Blues have been traveling so well this year. Can't remember everybody's name, but one specific, Andre, ran into Andre in the lobby at the Lowe's in Kansas City, and he was with his wife or his gal, I don't know, but he was talking about how, I thought about getting the barbecue, but instead I got the seafood. I was taking it up to their room, but he was talking about the Bleav pod and how much he loves it. So it means a lot to us when you let us know that you're taking it in and that you like what we're doing, because we'll continue to do it. If you rate, you review, you share like Andre has, we'd appreciate it, because that's what keeps this thing going.
Yeah, we really do appreciate it. I love it. I love talking to listeners and just people saying, I love the pod. I love listening to you and Money break it down. So it's really awesome. And unfortunately, we're not going to be cheering and turning flips today and talking about a big Chargers victory. Put it this way. It was so bad for me to watch the last 30 seconds that I turned it off after Mahomes made him miss the throw at the Kelsey. Yeah. I almost broke the TV. You just because if they get that stop, it just seems like the momentum. Justin's going to take them back, get them in field goal range. They're going to win that game. They're going to find a way. And just unfortunately, it didn't add up. And you saw when the kickoff, when you said, oh my God, right? When you saw Dicker, when the penalty, he didn't hit in that landing zone and got the ball at 40. I was like, no, why is this happening? Not tonight, please.
It's funny. There's a lot to break down, right? On that final drive, the game winning drive that the Chiefs just, we talk about it. They just know how to win. They know how to win. And there's certainly, I think there's a lot of positives to take out of the game, but we'll start where you started, Lo. And, I think and I get it, Coach mentioned in his presser on Monday that, the idea was it'd been working. Dicker had been dropping those kicks at the 1 or right at the goal line, and they wanted that extra 5 yards, maybe 10 yards. The Chiefs have been flagged for a penalty, backed them up inside their own 15 on one of them. So, that's why they didn't bang it out of the end zone. But it's the Chiefs. They got some sort of witchcraft. And at that point in the game, maybe it is just like, what? Let's not put it in the balance, because weird things happen when you play this team. Let's just bang it out of the back of the end zone, let them start at the 30. Now, did the 10 yards make that big of a difference? Maybe. But it's Mahomes, and it's just, so to put it in perspective, they had held, this is the number 1 third down offense in the league, the Chiefs, converting 52%. They had held them to 3 of 9 through the fourth quarter, 3 of 9 on third down. Defense doing its job, pounding Patrick Mahomes. Most quarterback hits in a first half since 2020, 11 of them. Yeah. I mean, they are working them, even though they're down 13-0. And then on those last 2 field goal drives, 5 of 6 on third down. It's remarkable what he's capable of doing when the chips are down and when he has to do it.
That's the crazy thing, Money. It's like watching a surgeon or watching a golfer play, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to take my 60-degree out, and I'm just going to loft this thing right over the sand trap, and it's going to land right on the green. Yeah. And then you see him take and say, this shot. I'm just going to run. I'm just going to knock it in the fairway. I could take a dangerous shot, like go over the trees, but you know what I'm doing? I'm just going to punch it out in the fairway, live to fight on another day. That's Mahomes. When he has to take that 60 and go over a huge bunker, and it's like, dude, don't do that. He'll take off and run and get the first down.
Yeah.
When he has to just punch it out in the fairway, he'll take the sack or he'll throw the ball away. But at the end of the game, when the game's on the ballot, they were hitting him, and sometimes he would just like be able to step up and throw it or run. And that's the thing that kills you. In the fourth quarter, in that second half, he's willing to take more shots. He's willing to take off and run. He's willing to be way more aggressive. He doesn't run until like the end of the game, right?
Yeah, and he's done it. And I think that's where muscle memory and scar tissue and subconscious comes into play, because on that 3rd and 7 to Travis Kelce, so many of those Chargers are specifically and look, we can get into the end, and I'm sure Jesse Minter, we're doing this on Wednesday. He'll have his presser tomorrow. He's so great with the media, and he is absolutely transparent and detailed and is happy to talk about individual plays and what his calls were. But I think that was the idea with Derwin. Hey, you know what Patrick does. This is when he uses his legs. We've been able to cover these guys. They're not the most explosive receivers anymore. We can just kind of play sticks defense. And Derwin, you spy Patrick and make sure he does not get this with his legs. That took him off Kelsey. Derwin was busting Travis Kelsey up every single snap. He couldn't get off of Derwin the entire game. So that's where and look, I get it, kind of. At the same time, it's like, man, I just get 87 out of it, man. Put Derwin on him and let somebody else shadow Patrick to make sure he doesn't run. But I think that's exactly what you're talking about, Lorenzo. We've seen it so many times where you've got the play covered perfectly.
Yes.
You get a little bit of pressure, and Mahomes uses his legs to pick up those 7 yards. And I think that's why you saw that defense. Why Deion shot, because he thought he had that lane to go get him, and unfortunately, it was a little bit too aggressive. And it wasn't even just Kelsey. I mean, if it's not Kelsey, I think it was either Juju or Hop. I don't remember who it was just squatting in the middle of the field as well. He had two options of guys that were wide open past the sticks for the first down.
Yeah, and it was crazy because after he made him miss, I guess defenders thought he was going to run.
Yeah.
So you see, it was the play was just so like slow motion, so real. You're like, okay, get the tackle. You're going to get the tackle. You see him stretch, like, oh, and then he makes him miss, and you're like, okay, is he going to run for it, or who's going? And you just see him dink it. Kelsey just laying on the ground, catches it. But we could talk about it all day. It's just that pit in your stomach. I like you said, they had to overcome a battle. They're down 13-0. The biggest thing that I took away, one of those positive, and we've been feeling this negative, I think something that you talked about, you and I last week, was that who's going to step up at the receiver?
Yeah.
We said that, look, the receiver position was like, oh my goodness, can guys catch the ball? Are guys going to bail him out? Who's going to make plays? And you saw one where, we know it. We got one of the best quarterbacks, top 3-4 quarterbacks in the league. Herbert missed a layup. You don't see that often. Missed the long ball. Guy would have walked it in zone. But in spite of, you wanted to see the receivers step up. You want to see, can Will Dissly or any other tight end? My goodness, this 84, the tight end. My God, this guy you're talking about, ex-quarterback, whatever, he showed up and showed out.
DJ called it, Lorenzo. He said it's the Stone Smart game before the game. He's like, this is where Stone Smart should get reps, should come into play. The Chiefs struggle against athletic tight ends. They're not good in the middle of the field. And we'd seen this in the past that, Hayden Hurst has been hurt. He's not playing. And we know what Justin Herbert's been able to do with dynamic tight ends and how much he relied on Gerald Everett last year on those money downs and how much he relied on Jared Cook and how much, especially his rookie season, how important Hunter Henry was. And it took an injury to Will Dissly to get him out there. But Stone Smart wouldn't get any reps. And then all of a sudden, Dissly goes down, Stone comes out, and here's the answer to all your will. But to go back to what you said, Lo, when we were asking who was going to step up, the answer is everybody. It's the best game Josh has had all year. I think it's the best game Quentin's had in his career. Now, I know he's had more yards. I know he's had multiple touchdowns in games, but Quentin played his tail off, man. He took shots. He came that pass interference call. That's something that we've been talking about a lot. Like, Q has got to learn how to fight through coverage to get the flag. He doesn't fight. He doesn't push hard enough into that coverage to emphasize that contact is there, and he never gets flags. And on that play, he finally kind of fought through it and drew that penalty. That shot he took, man, he holds onto the ball. Doesn't just get the 15-yard penalty, but gets a 20-yard reception on top of it. The Joe Alt holding call that negated that 28-yard gain down the right sideline. Just a beautiful, subtle little shove on his defender that doesn't get flagged for offensive PI to come back and get that. The touchdown where he's able to just kind of sense the soft spot in the zone and ad-lib. Like, it was a hell of a Q game. I mean, and I'm hoping, because I think he's a very emotional player, and I think those drops got to him in Baltimore and affected him for a second game. So to me, I'm hoping this is like a big springboard for him. Like, hey, man, this was the biggest stage. The division's still in the balance. And he delivered, man. He played his tail off.
He really did. And when Q took that shot, it's easy to go into a shell and you get the butterfingers. This guy snagged that took a huge hit, took the penalty, and then, like you said, he proceeded to continue to even top that. Because even in that touchdown that he found that soft zone, shout out Fisk taking 2 out in the flat
Right?
with him. They went to with the big boy, that Jason Fisk son. You kind of like, okay, look at that.
Yeah.
And the thing about it though, money, the guy came back and he caught it, but he took a shot after that.
Yeah.
So sometimes guys see it coming, like, oh my God, they're looking, take their eyes off the ball and look, anticipate the hit. I thought he was very, very consistent. I thought he played a great game, run after the catch, the yak yards, and that was huge for Q because, like you said, been up and down. Last week it was all about McConkey and like, man, who's going to step up? All the drops, Herbert, like, okay, who is he going to go to? And not just him, but the whole receiving core.
Yeah.
They made timely plays in crucial situations and made some big time catches.
Yeah, no doubt. Josh Palmer, best game of the
Yeah.
season, and could have been something really special had Herbert found him on that post. Just in the first half, that unfortunately got away from him a little bit. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform. It's your number one source for betting. They got everything, earliest odds. They have in-game live betting. If you got your gut telling you to do something in the middle of a game, get over there. It's the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. It's the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, MMA. They got it all. Head over to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline. The game starts here. To put in perspective, kind of what you wonder how and this is something that Jim Harbaugh talks about all the time, right? Opportunity. Oh, the opportunity's there. Opportunity's there. Well, the opportunity hasn't been there for Stone Smart. He hasn't gotten the reps. He hasn't gotten the targets. He hasn't gotten the opportunity to get on the field. And you credit him for probably asking himself, like, I appreciate what Will's doing out there, but Tucker Fisk is getting some targets and he's making catches for two yards here or 3 yards there. And Eric Tomlinson kind of got his shot and he's back on the practice squad. Like, when's my number going to get called, man? I'm active every week and I'm not getting any reps. Guy came in with 3 catches for 44 yards. He left the game with 3 catches for 54 yards in the second half and was the driving force behind what was, and this is the other positive. Well, you know what? I'll just leave it there, Lo, because it's something you can speak to. You've had teammates, I'm sure, or maybe it's been your personal experience. Like what that says about someone that here we are in week 14 and he's finally getting the call and he's able to deliver. And I'm absolutely certain moving forward, he's going to get himself a lot of snaps in these final 4 games.
Oh, no question he is. He's earned that. And I remember being with the Saints in my rookie year, had a guy, fullback named Brad Muster. They brought him from Chicago Bears, Stanford grad. And I would watch him play. At that time, he's getting a little older. So, I've been there and guys want to replace me and I got older, can't do it. And I just like watching him, getting in the meetings. But this guy's helping me out. Smart, student of the game, great receiver, could do the things I could. But I knew that watching him block and watching my intensity, I was like, God, I just want the opportunity. But you have to earn it. And not just that, you don't kick and complain. You just go to work, you keep your head down, you listen. Brad's like, hey, you're gonna have time, buddy. He knew, but he was like, hey, and you get the right veteran guys around you that nurture you, that lift you up, even when they think they know, hey, it's their time, but look, you're gonna be okay. And if you, as a young guys, if you take that information and that advice and just work, your opportunity will come. Your gift will make room for you. And I mean, I know you talked about Stone a while, like, oh, when is Stone? But I didn't know he was talented like this. I mean, because I watched the game, and after made a catch, you're like watching him block. He was cutting guys off. He was getting in front of guys. As a quarterback, you're like, okay, this guy ex-quarter. But you knew the potential that he had. Because I mean, I didn't watch enough of this guy because he really hadn't shown you enough. Why were you kind of, hey, I think if this guy had a chance, you kind of felt that he could have some success? What led you to that?
It's not Will Dissly's, it's not what he does. He's been pressed into that. Will's a blocking tight end. He's going to give you, he's got a long enough career to kind of see, right? It's like, yeah, Will's one of the best blocking tight ends who can also be a threat in the passing game. But Hayden Hurst was signed to be that second tight end, to be the pass catching tight end. And unfortunately, banged up in that preseason game, got laid out, and just has not been the same since. And they need it. Like it's 5 years of Justin Herbert knowing what he likes and knowing what he wants. So really, Low, more than anything, it's just that's all
Opportunity.
they have. That's not what Eric
Okay.
Tomlinson does. It's not what
Okay.
Tucker Fisk does. It's really not what Will Dissly does. So it's sort of like, hey man, you gotta, if you watch it, think about um, Isaiah Likely in the
Mm,
opener against the
mm,
Chiefs. It
mm.
busted them up and down the field, busted them up. Dalton Kincaid in the game against the Bills. Like, it's a position of strength for a team that's playing the Chiefs. So you knew it's kind of like, yeah, and that's why when the inactives came out and Ladd wasn't on there, I was like, oh man, this team is getting eat up. Jamari Connor is getting eaten up in the middle of the field, and Ladd would have had. It was such a perfect fit for him to have just an explosive game and 100+ yards and maybe a tug. So that's where the tight end comes into play. If it's not going to be Ladd, can we get that tight end to kind of get Jamari Connor out there on him, because he's been the Cheeto. He's been picked on all season long. So I think that's where it comes into play, right? It's just a product of who the opponent is. So
I can see this team running some 12 now personnel with Stone because
yeah,
he's a handful to cover. He's got wiggle, he's got shake, he can stretch the field, he's athletic, he's fast, and watching him, he's got soft hands. Here's a guy now, you put him and Will Dissly on the field and go 12 personnel and one back and two receivers, you're gonna pose some problems for
yeah.
the opponent
Well, no, I
because
think
you're
this
gonna
I think
cover.
this is going to be out for a while. I think
I seen the
unfortunately,
shoulder. I saw when
yeah,
he cut that thing, it bent back. I was like,
yeah.
ah,
So I don't know for sure. Today's the first injury report, but I think that's going to be a couple
season
weeks
ending.
kind of. I don't know about season ending, but I think it's going to be at least. I don't think I'd be surprised. I don't want to play doctor. I hate doing that.
Was his AC was his
I think it was an
rotator?
AC
Because
joint. I think it might
yeah,
have been
because
an AC joint. I don't know though. I truly don't know.
okay,
I hate projecting because I don't want to put injuries on people, but I think it was a shoulder, and I'm guessing that kind of from what the early indications are that he may not be available. So, but look, like you said, Tucker Fiskey's been blocking well. You can call up Tomlinson from the practice squad. You got McCallum Castles in there as well, so you have some other tight ends. I was kind of going through the practice squads, and the only other guy I could really see out there that could be a possibility, because we know, Chef Ortiz likes to cook it up and churn the roster, is Irv Smith is out there on the Texans, I think, practice roster, that you might be
mm,
able to scoop up, just someone with a little bit of experience that you can trust. But it's just so hard to drop guys in, especially with the way, you see what they do with their tight ends, the amount of motion
right,
they run and
right.
how much they're asked to block and things. So if, if I were to guess, moving forward, you'll probably see, I think most likely Tomlinson gets called up, and then it's Tomlinson, Tucker, and now Stone Smart is going to get a lot of that out there. But it's a big hit because we know how good Will is at blocking it up, and blocking.
Right,
But Tucker Fisk, you mentioned it, he's been blocking really well. That
right.
left side when they're running the ball, they ran the ball effectively. 4 yards per carry. I know it was rough in the first half, but man, those two scoring drives in the second half was a beauty. And think about that, Lo. That's the other positive to come out of this, right? This is a team that I think scored a touchdown. The pick six in the third quarter was scored by the defense, so that doesn't count. I want to say they scored a touchdown in the third quarter against Tennessee, and I think it's been only one other game that they scored a touchdown in the third quarter. Third quarters have been a huge issue for them, where they're barely scoring any points or 3 points. Might be the Raiders. Whatever the
Mm.
case, they don't score in the third quarter, and what do? They dig themselves into a 13-0 hole. They come out, bang, bang, one scoring drive for almost 8 minutes to open it up, and then
Physical.
another 5 minutes. They had the ball for 12 minutes of the third quarter and outscored the Chiefs 14-0. It was their best third quarter yet, and I think that's something you can pack and take with you over these final 4 games.
Oh, you're definitely going to build on that. And they just lined up and went heavy formation to the left, and they just ran the ball down their throat off that left side,
Yeah,
and they dared them to stop. They did toss, they did zone, they ran, and guys were getting out, pulling, creating a new line of scrimmage, and they pushed Kansas City off. They did a great job on the backside too, cutting off the defenders and giving the back the able to be able to cut back and find those little lanes. I thought it was that third quarter when they came out and just lined up and said, "We're going to play bully ball, and we're not just going to say we're playing bully. We're going to do bully ball.
yeah,
We're going to actually do it." And that's what you like to see in the way in which they carry themselves. So I think it was a great game. Unfortunately, the Chargers lost, but I think you played against a Kansas City team. Yeah, everyone's talking about every week they get lucky. You know what? You can't say you're past the luck. You watch
yeah,
Mahomes every
yeah,
week at the end of those games, like you said. He's
Winning
finding
time.
a way. It's winning time, and you have to go on with the lead. You have to make sure that you have a lead, give yourself some security that because you know Mahomes is going to strike back at the end of the game. So you can't think that you can play from behind or leave the game empty and give tied and give the ball to Mahomes. You just can't do that if you're going to leave that kind of time, least less time on the clock, and you're not going to have an opportunity to get the ball back. It's tough sledding against Mahomes.
Yeah. I was going through the play, the run of plays on that scoring drive, the 13 plays that you were talking about, Low, and it was Gus hadn't done anything. I think Gus had like 4 carries for 7 yards or something in the first half, and then he comes out and bang, Gus Edwards for 3, short pass, Herbert with a run, to get the first down on a 3rd and 1, and then Vidal showed that explosiveness that you need in the absence of J.K. Dobbins.
I
He
like
gets it
him.
right. He was running his tail off because they went back-to-back runs with Vidal, 8 yards, and then another one for 1 yard. Just keeping that thing going with Giro, and Herbert gets a quick pass. You run a sweep with Darius Davis, and then it's Gus bust time, man. After a couple passes, you get Gus bust. The big one for Stone Smart, that was that athletic grab that he
Right.
contorted his body and got down there. And then I love the back-to-back runs from Gus. He gets the big 7-yard run from the 10 on 1st and goal. Just give it right back to him, man. Pound
Yep.
it down their throat. He keeps the legs moving, and he's able to take those 2 carries from the 10 on a 1st and goal, 1 for 7, the next one for the 3-yard, through that left B gap to get the touchdown. And I'm anxious to see how they use those 2 drives moving forward, because it does feel like, and I know the runs have not been that successful, but they get away from it in that first half. They're just not quite running the ball as much as you might have thought they would run the ball, just because they preach it, right? They're like, oh, you just got to stick with it, man. You got to stick with it. You got to lean on these defenses, beat them up, because then it pays off in the fourth quarter. And we saw that throughout the first part of the year. And it just feels like these last few games, they kind
Got
of get
away
away,
from it.
right? They get away from
They
it
have.
early.
They have. No, you see it, and they've gotten away for a couple reasons. One, you haven't had success. It's just you haven't had to. When you bust out 7 or 8 yards, now you can go back to it because it's 3rd and 1. You can throw the ball, pick up the first down, quarterback sneak. So you have more options. Now you can run, pass on that first, and you run, pick up another 4 or 5 yards. Now you can go back to it because now it's 2nd and 5.
Yeah.
Boom. So I think, like you said, they want to run, but they haven't had success. So Jesse doesn't, so now your OC doesn't necessarily have confidence, that they can run it with consistency. So, it gets away from that. So you got to start showing more success before they can continue to run the ball. So I have seen it, but you are in these last couple of weeks, you're going to have to be physical. You're going to have to
Yeah.
beat up on Denver. You're going to have to, because you're going to have to play physical type of ball, and you have the weapons, you have the horses to do it.
Yeah, look, it's the Chiefs. It's the 2-time back-to-back Super Bowl champs. It's a team that's 12-1 now. I think it's important, while frustrated because they lost their 7th straight. And I saw an interesting stat, and I've got to Bleav, even though he's certainly one of the most humble superstars around, it's got to eat at him. But Justin Herbert is now 1-7 against Patrick Mahomes, and in 4 of those 7 losses, he has led a scoring drive in the fourth quarter that has put the Chargers ahead. And he did it again, up 17-16 with 4:30 to go. Herbert drove the field for those 2 touchdowns in the third quarter to get his team back in it. I thought he played a heck of a game. You missed the shot downfield. It's a bummer. He rarely does it. He almost always hits those shot plays.
Right.
But he played a heck of a game. I mean, again, got through the game without throwing an interception, got through the game without his number 1 target in Ladd McConkey, half of the game without his second most trusted target in Will Dissly, and was able to use, and not to mention, got worked, got a contusion on his left leg, and was able, sat on the field for 5 minutes, didn't miss a play, or missed a single play, with Taylor Heineke taking 1 play. But the guy's just built different, man. He truly is. To come out in the second half, or to come out after that injury and continue to deal the way he did, was just freaking impressive. And it sucks that here's a guy that could be 5-3 instead of 5-4 instead of 1-7 against this team, with all those
Right.
fourth quarter drives that has given his team the lead. But I think it's important to just remember that's what the Chiefs do. It's what Patrick Mahomes has done his whole career, and
Right.
hopefully If you watch the Derwin James mic'd up, you heard what Patrick Mahomes said to him. We'll see you in the playoffs. Hopefully, the third time's the charm, and they can get him in maybe the divisional round of the postseason this year.
Yeah, I think they will. They're right there, and I tell you what, Herbert to me grew this past game. Of course, it's oh yeah, he's been I've seen it, but I'm just talking about the way in which he initiated getting other guys involved. Saying hey, look, having his best receiver out and making other guys step up,
Yeah.
putting the ball right in their hands where they got to catch it. It is interesting because you think, okay, is he going to shy away, not having Disley? He goes right to Stone. I think he grew up tremendously. He said, "Look, I'm going to these guys. I'm going to trust you. You just get open." It was that was a very very heroic effort by Herbert. Just the way that he distributed the ball, fearless, giving guys shots, calling on guys that haven't really stepped up, but just demanding. I mean, he played kind of like Mahomes in the fact that Mahomes, he doesn't have no names receivers, and at times just still making those guys have the opportunity,
Yeah.
making those guys catch the ball, putting it on them, gonna go back to him. I thought he did a great job of that.
Yeah. And again, just to kind of put a wrap on this, and I'll look forward to Tampa. I think what you realize is it's there. And we talked about capitalizing on opportunities, capitalizing on drives, making sure you score. I understood, and DJ was the one who said it during the broadcast, when they punted from the 39. It's, you know what? This Chiefs team is not as explosive as they've been. They really struggle once they get to the red zone, and just keep it muddy, try to
Right,
drag them into that deep end. And I think
right,
that's what those early punts did. It's like, we're content that we can hold them to threes, that they're not. And they did, they held them to 6 points in the first half until that final 2-minute drill when it got away from them a little bit at the end of the half. That was the only touchdown. They shut them out in the third quarter. So I get the punting. I know people are like, why wouldn't you attempt the 56 or 57, whatever it would have been from Dicker? And it's like, well, the winds are swirling. You don't want to give them a short field when you feel like they don't have anything
right.
going. So that I'm not second guessing at all. But I bring all that up because I think what we saw is the Chiefs have a serious tackle problem. The
Mm,
Chargers are incredible on the edges. They
mm,
beat the absolute snot out of Patrick Mahomes. They were able to control the run, and they can keep these games in the balance. And that's all you want to do. I know it's crazy to say because Patrick always seems to come out on the right side of it, but given another opportunity, given a chance to redo a few of those things, a few of the coverages, the kickoff, all of those things, I think you feel pretty good about, all right, we feel like we can trade punches with these guys,
yeah,
and that's all you want is the opportunity to execute, to hit that post next time, to
right.
to put Derwin on Kelsey the next time, to have the opportunity to get the win instead of the loss.
Yeah, and that's what you're saying is make them, make them have to really beat you. Don't leave it up to a field goal. Make them score a touchdown or be double because when as far as giving up touchdowns, this team gets stingy. Don't know if you were leading by 7. Don't know if Kansas City would have been able to find the end zone. It changes the
Yeah,
whole demographic. They were playing for a field goal, so you can play a little softer. You don't have to do when you're playing for a touchdown. You got to be more aggressive. So,
right.
and that's when the Chargers play their best. So be in a situation where make them have to beat you, have to score a touchdown instead of a field goal to beat you. So get in those things and you'll be better. And that's why, I'm looking at this game, we talked about who's remaining on the schedule. Tampa is I'm not saying they're the best team, but they're still a hot team. And that's another team that a lot of injuries, but they waited to the cavalry come back. And even though they struggled against, everyone seems to be struggling against Carolina lately, but they're finding a way. So this is a game that's going to take some work.
Yeah, so Tampa's interesting, right? Because there's it's weird to watch them, right? Their last three, they lose four in a row and they lose five, so what, 7 of 9 and then all of a sudden they win these last three. The last three they've won: Giants, Panthers, Raiders. All right. Three
No
teams that have a combined seven
layups.
wins. Prior to that, they lose to the 49ers, Chiefs, Falcons, Ravens. Um, the Broncos busted them up something good. Baker's going to give you opportunities. Baker threw 2 picks against the Raiders. Two bad, well, one really bad pick. One was just swatted down. They run a lot of motion. They run a lot of screens. Bucky Irving is fantastic. That dude is explosive, man. But he got hurt tweaked his back, so he barely played in the Raider game. We'll see if he plays in this one. Mike Evans is a problem. He's going to be a problem. He's fast. He's a power forward. He runs great routes. He's in the conversation as the best receiver in the league. I mean, he's just
Right,
that
right.
good. He's a problem, but their tackles are really good. Like there's a lot of good there. Defense, I know it's Todd Bowles. Defense has not been good. The defense has given up explosives. Um, Defense has broken down when they needed to be at their best. You talked about that Carolina game where Bryce was really getting after him, and then it just kind of got away from him late. But it's it's sort of it's a very similar game to what we saw this past week in that Tampa's really good on third down. I think they're second on third down, and they're really good in the red zone, which is what was the game? It was Atlanta who was really good in the red zone, right? And so we've seen, and the Chargers are really good on third down, and they're really good in the red zone on defense. So we saw what they were able to do against Atlanta in the red zone, right? Overcome a really good red
Right,
zone team,
right.
and then we saw what they were able to do against the Chiefs for 3 quarters, overcome a really good third down team, and that's what it's going to take defensively to get the win. But like I think if you look at what Baker's done against really good defenses, that's where I kind of lean and say, okay, I got a little bit of faith that the team's going to be able to give him a couple, give you a short field, give you a couple opportunities to get on top of this team and back them, back them against the wall a little bit where they have to start throwing, and that's where you can really take advantage of Baker.
Yeah, and that's what and I've seen Tampa, and they're just a scary team. They still have some fight in them, like you said. Denver beat up on them, took them to the woodshed, woodpile, and you know what? And I think when you look at a team like Carolina, I think they're playing the best. They might be the worst team in the NFL, but they're playing the best out of all the worst teams in the NFL
Yeah.
as of late. They're scoring. They're playing good defense. They're playing so. That was a game that was, took it down to the wire, went to overtime. Kansas City, they took to the wire. So I'm looking at, this Tampa team to say Baker's has his guys believing in him.
Yeah.
Baker's found a home. Baker he has a way to lift guys up, and yeah, he'll throw you some picks. But if you watch the team, they fight for him. If you watch the team, he'll take a big shot, and guys just get up, and they're just like,
Yeah.
so they kind of rise with the tide, and they rise and fall around Baker. So I'm with you. If you can get to him, hit him, make him throw some interceptions, make him doubt himself, I think as he goes, the team goes. When he doesn't go, it's that Tampa team, they rely heavily on him.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And he's tough. And Liam Cohen's having a great year as their OC. They lost Dave Canales to the Panthers as their head coach, and a lot of people felt like they were going to lose a lot of that magic that he had brought with Baker last season. But instead, Liam Cohen, watching their offense, man, they motion the S out of you. I mean, it's Sterling Shep, and they run a lot of these screens. They'll motion into screens where you're not quite sure where the blockers are coming from. They block it up really well. They're balanced. Rachaad White can run, like we mentioned. Bucky Irving is explosive. He'll give you the ball. He'll lose it a couple times out there, but Cade Otton has stepped in to be a big time sort of middle of the field target, third down target for Baker at the tight end position. And again, Wirfs Wirfs is one of the best tackles in the league. They have a good offensive line. Graham Barton's been all right at center. Their guards are good, Cody Mock and Bredesen. So they're going to block it up pretty well. Now, he has taken a lot of sacks. I don't know if you were to tell me who's got the edge, D-line versus O-line, I'd say probably still edge Chargers D-line, and that's how you can get that clock moving and pressure him into some throws that maybe he doesn't want to make, or he tends to sail throws a little bit, just giving you those opportunities. So, and it's not a really good D. It's now, here's the issue, right? Where's the strength of their defense? Kalijah Cansey and Vita Vea right in the middle. And, we saw that against Kansas City is Karlaftis. You didn't really hear from him. Chris Jones had Trey on skates the whole game. Understandable. Zion, it's one thing to get put on skates by Chris Jones. It's another to have Tershawn Wharton bust you up the whole game. And Zion had a bit of a rough go in this one. Wharton wrecked him a few times. And I think that's where your concern is going to be on the interior of that line versus Vea and Kalijah Cansey, because that's where you could have your issues defensively.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Vita Vea, he can get after. He's strong. He's quick. I mean, that guy can get off the ball, and he's a run stopper. But if you push the pocket back, and that's what you love about Herbert, because Herbert can he is a passer, and he can step up. So you're gonna have to give some help and try to keep that pocket clean for him, because when Herbert's clean and he can step in that pocket and step up in the pocket and deliver and throw the ball, I think he's one of the best in the league, if not the best. He's a pure passer, and he can throw the ball anywhere. So offensive line is going to have some challenges. And I think when you look at, Nick Hardwick and the guys they have coaching
Oh
those
yeah.
guys, they got to be looking at this film and say, hey, guys, we got to we got to get better. We had too many penalties. We got pushed around up front. We didn't help each other out. We got to do a better job chipping. We got to do a better job of staying in front of these guys. We have to improve. If we want to go for, Herbert is going to go as far as you guys take him up front. Because if you give us a block, if you block for this guy, we can beat anybody in the league, and we're not afraid of if you give him time.
Yeah, and I think the other issue too, Lo, is when you think about pressure up the middle, what do you got to do? Now you got to peel out, and that
Yep,
injury, and you saw how
yep,
much he was kind of hobbling in that
yep,
second half. That's where it could really come into play. We're gonna have to figure out the interior of that line. The one little, not little, but the one sort of thing that people may not be looking at is Bucks have a rookie punter, Jake Browning, and man, he is giving teams opportunities. You're talking about a guy that's got a gross average of 42.7, a net average of 32.7.
mm,
Returners are averaging 15 yards per return on him, and we know how explosive Darius Davis could be. So that's something to keep an eye on
field
as
position.
well. Is that here's someone that can give you a chance. There's that short field that we're
Yep,
talking about, right? Because Matt Ariza, look, Darius, it was the winds were swirling, and he bobbled it. Thankfully, he was able to fall on top of it and not turn that ball over on that one. But there was one where I thought he had an opportunity to maybe make a run at it, and he signaled for fair catch when it looked like it was a little bit returnable.
right.
So I'm guessing you go back, look right, you go back, you look at that film, and you're like, hey, next time let's maybe give our guys a shot, man. Let's see if we can pop one here, Double D, and this is a game where that could really go a long way.
And I think that's what coach is going to be preaching this week. Is going to let the guys say, we got to win on teams.
Yeah.
Hardball. He's a guy that's going to preach that. Hey, look, this is a game that it looks going to be a heavyweight fight. It's a team that we should beat, but let's win on teams. Special teams, like you said, if you can flip field position is huge, and special teams has an opportunity this week to do that. That will help the Chargers offense and defense out tremendously.
Yeah, they sacked the quarterback. I'm going through their stats. I pulled them up here. Low, they're not great against the pass. 28th in yards, or 30th, I should say, in yards against the pass. They allow over 250 per game. They allow over 365 yards per game. They're 22nd in points. They give up 24. They're not good on third down. 23rd in the league. So those opportunities are going to be there. It's just you got to give Herbert time, and let's hope that Ladd is back. I think now that you got all this confidence coming out of this game with Josh and Q and
Oh
Stone
yeah,
Smart. Now you drop Ladd in there, and you feel pretty good about this complement of weapons. We'll see what they do with that other receiver spot. Chark finally got his first reception. Um, Going back and looking through all of his snaps, it was a mixed bag. Rager injured his finger, so that's why Chark ended up getting a few more reps, but it didn't look it looked all right. We'll see if maybe a full week of practice, knowing that that's the role he's going to have, is that fourth receiver, whether that changes something, or if they call a guy, up off the practice squad, whether it's Laviska Shenault that they picked up off waivers a little over a week ago, if it's Brennan Rice who's ready to come back off IR, if it's Jalen Johnson who had a really nice preseason, there's I'll be interested to see who that fourth receiver becomes, but there's opportunities. They're going to give you opportunities, especially again in the special teams. Look at this: 29th punts gross, 30th punts net, 28th punt returns allowed. So
wow,
like there's
wow,
opportunities
opportunities.
there. And I know I'm talking a lot. I'll finish with this. They're kind of doing what we said we thought they needed to do to make the tournament, right? Okay, you got Baltimore and Cincinnati at home, got to win one. You got Atlanta and Kansas City on the road, got to win one. And they did. And that was the toughest stretch of the season, those 4 games that we looked at and said, can you split these 4 games?
Yep.
Because if you can, you feel pretty good about getting to 10 and maybe even 11 now. I think that's That's where I'd feel most comfortable. Can you get 3 of these last 4? 2 of them are at home. The last 2 on the road are against teams with a combined 5 wins right now through 14 weeks. So, can you split these 2 home games against Tampa and Denver, and then can you sweep at New England, at the Raiders? And that to me is a path to the number 5 seed and the number 1 wild card. That's kind of the way I look at it, Lo.
And if that happens, who would you if that were to happen, would you be playing the first week?
Texans. You'd be playing the Texans wild card
That's
round.
what you want.
And
That's what you want. And then
yeah,
the second round would be KC, or would it be KC?
it depends what wild, because they shuffle. So it
You,
would
but
totally depend on who the wild card winners
man,
were. If you're so yeah, right now, I mean, look, I got to check because I think the Broncos schedule is a little bit. Yeah, so the Broncos have the Colts this week. Colts are fighting for their playoff lives.
right,
I still think the Broncos are a better team and
where's
should
that
win
game
that
at?
game. It's
Where's
at
that game?
Denver. It's at
Okay.
Denver. And then of course it's the head-to-head. Chargers win that and you're guaranteed the slot above the Broncos because you'll have swept them, handed them that extra loss. And then after that, Broncos have to go to Cincinnati and they have the Chiefs. So the
Oof.
big question is going to be that final week 18. Are the Chiefs locked in as the number 1? Now that the Bills have 3 losses, or with the Chiefs
Ooh, they got
having to play the Texans.
yeah,
They're against a frisky Browns team this week in Cleveland. Then they have to
yeah.
play the Texans at home. Then they have to go to the Steelers before
Mm,
the Broncos. And we know the Steelers are still fighting for that number 1 spot.
of
So
course.
so it'll depend on that's a lot of stuff that's out of the
No,
Chargers' control.
but the Steelers beat Kansas City in Pittsburgh. The Steelers are going to win that. I mean, well, they should, and they're going to be the favorite. I think that I think this Charger team, getting just back on the Chargers as we wrap, these 2 games you got to win. You got to take care of your home.
Yeah.
The crowd is
They'll be
like you said.
favored.
You said for the last couple of weeks, the crowd has been amazing.
They have.
Chargers fans have came out. They're representing, and I'm telling you, this week needs to be about Harbaugh getting with that the plan to the crowd, saying, "We need you guys. You got to win these 2 home games. You win these 2 home games, you can take care of those.
Yeah.
Don't think about those other 2 at the back end. That's just growth that you need to take it. But these 2 games, like you said, are critical.
Yeah.
Denver, you look at Tampa. You're playing Tampa first, and then Denver. You know what Denver represents. You have to find a way to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week and get ready for them.
Yeah,
I think
I'd
you need to
agree.
win these 2.
I'd agree. I think it's
They're winnable.
yeah, they are. They're winnable.
It's not the Ravens.
They'll
It's
be
not the
favored in
Bills.
both. Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
be favored in both. I know the Denver defense is exceptional, but you can't let a rookie quarterback come into SoFi and beat you.
No,
When the
no,
playoffs are on the line and playoff positioning
no.
is on the line. I'm with you on that. So, look, they win all 4, and you're talking about a 12-5 season, which is so far ahead of schedule. I thought 9-8,
Yeah,
10-7 max based on the roster and the cap situation
me too.
and sort of, what they had inherited, the competition in the AFC, the way the schedule laid out. I was like, yeah, 10-7 would be good. Now that we could potentially be talking about 11, like you said, maybe even 12, because they will be favored probably in all of these games. Not easy to go across the country, play at 10 a.m. or in New England against a pretty good defense, an offense that is not very good, maybe the worst offensive line in the league. But that's when you're cutting loose and you got nothing to lose. So that's when teams can be dangerous. The Raiders, they should not win a game the rest of the year.
No,
Like I'm just saying, from a strategic standpoint, you need a
agreed.
quarterback, man. You need that number 1 pick. You got to go get Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders, or maybe you're able to go out and sign Sam Darnold and you draft Travis Hunter and get that explosive out. Like, you got 2 wins, man. What does it matter if you win 3 or 4?
Agreed.
You're not carrying anything over. This thing is needed to be torn down and rebuilt for the last 5 years, and they've just hesitated to do that. So that being said, the one thing that you do not want under any circumstances, if you are the Chargers,
I already
is
know.
that Week 18 game
To make the
being
playoffs.
needed to go to the playoffs, because I can promise you want to talk about a team that doesn't care about the number 1 pick. They are going to be so
Right.
supremely motivated to knock you out of the playoffs that it's going to be like a Super Bowl in that
Right.
stadium. So that is the one thing you do not want. Take care of
We
business early,
agreed.
punch your ticket to the tournament, and make sure Week 18 has nothing to do with you getting in or not getting into the playoffs.
I love how you,
I'll leave it
I
with
love
that.
how you just, I love how you just went, listen, guys, Charger, don't want to see
No,
that one.
that's
Exactly. That's
that
been a
that
nightmare, right?
yeah, that cannot happen. All right, that's gonna do it for us. Appreciate you all. Leave your comments. I know I wasn't able to dig into the YouTube comments. My apologies, but I routinely do. Just a weird week last week and all that. So we'll knock all that out. Thank you for commenting, for rating, for sharing, for always saying hi to us when we're out around town. We appreciate it, and hopefully in a week we'll be talking about a big victory over the Buccaneers and how they can knock the Broncos down another rung and put their playoff hopes in peril. Shout out to Lindsay for helping us out with this. You heard Prestyn's music at the start. You can follow her on Spotify or TikTok. My daughter's the one that put that thing together. Prestyn Smith with a Y, not Smith Smyth, but Prestyn Prestyn. All right, Lo. We'll
Bolt
do it
up,
again
baby.
next week, man. Bolt up.
Let's do it. Cheers.